What happens when we trap the desert inside glass? This is the question we ask at the start. It is a simple question, but the answer is not simple at all. We take a small piece of a vast, dry world. We place this world inside a large glass jar. We seal it. This jar will become a tiny desert, a miniature planet all on its own. For 100 days, we will watch. We will not interfere. We will only observe. We want to see what survives. We want to understand the delicate balance of life when resources are scarce and the environment is harsh. The goal is to witness a story unfold. This is not a story of grand heroes or epic battles. It is a story of slow, quiet struggles. It is a story told in grains of sand and drops of water. It is a story of a single plant and a lone beetle. How will they cope with the rising heat? Where will they find water when there is no rain? We hope to learn about resilience. It is also a stage for a very small, very important drama about survival itself. The first week establishes the fundamental rhythm of life inside the jar. The lamp, our artificial sun, dictates everything. Each morning, it switches on. The temperature inside the glass begins its slow climb. By midday, the thermometer shows high numbers. The sand becomes a pocket of intense, dry heat. Heat shimmers above the sand. In the evening, the lamp switches off. The jar begins to cool. The daily heating and cooling mimic real desert swings. Life inside must adapt to this relentless pulse of heat and cold. The plant is the first to respond. In the hottest part of the day, its leaves curl inward slightly. By reducing surface area, it minimizes water loss. The plant hoards moisture in its fleshy tissues, saving it for long, dry days ahead. The beetle learns the rhythm too. Under the midday sun, the open sand is dangerous. It seeks refuge in the shadow of a stone, still and hidden. As the jar cools at night, tiny beads of moisture form on the inner glass. This is condensation. The water came from evaporation, from the soil, and from the plant during the day. For the beetle, those droplets are a lifeline. At dawn, it walks the glass, drinking the precious beads of water. This is the jar's miniature water cycle in action: evaporation and condensation. A fragile loop that must sustain life for 3 months. Time-lapse captures the leaves curling. Time-lapse captures the beetle's retreat into shade. Daily checks of thermometer and humidity sensor give the hard data. The plant and the beetle are adapting, finding their place in the steady rhythm of their glass-enclosed world. After 2 weeks, the pristine landscape of day 1 begins to show signs of age and stress. The changes are small but significant. These are salt crystals. As the warmth from the lamp draws moisture up from the deep soil, the water evaporates at the surface, leaving behind the minerals it carried. This process, known as salinization, is a common feature in arid environments. The beetle's constant movements have created tiny trails and pathways to the walls of the jar. When we view it through a macro lens, we can see the individual grains beginning to lock together. Its vibrant green color has softened to a slightly duller, more muted shade. It is a living fortress, protecting its internal water supply against the siege of the constant heat. On day 21, we decide to introduce a new element of chaos. Deserts are not static places. They are shaped by the power of wind. To simulate this, we use a small controlled gust from a fan directed at the filtered opening of the jar. For a few moments, the still air inside is whipped into a frenzy. A miniature sandstorm erupts within the glass. The fine, pale sand lifts from the surface, swirling in a vortex of dust and grit. It is a beautiful and violent event, a tempest contained within a teacup. A fine layer of dust coats the inside of the glass, obscuring the view and scattering the light into a hazy glow. The landscape is completely rearranged. The beetle, caught in the open when the storm began, is nowhere to be seen. It will take several hours for it to re-emerge, cautiously pushing its way back to the surface. The central story of this sealed world is, and always will be, the story of water. We began the experiment with a very small, finite amount. A little in the soil, a little in the tissues of the plant, a little moisture in the air. For 100 days, this same water must be used, recycled, and conserved. There is no rain. There are no rivers. Every single drop is precious, and its journey through the ecosystem is a constant, unseen dance. Each evening, as the temperature drops, the water vapor in the air cools and condenses into liquid droplets. In the early morning, before the lamp turns on, the glass is fogged with moisture. Some of this water runs down the sides and rehydrates the upper layers of sand. The beetle has learned to anticipate this event, and it is the most active at dawn, harvesting these droplets directly from the glass. Through a process called transpiration, it releases a small amount of water vapor from its leaves. This adds to the humidity inside the jar, contributing to the nightly condensation. Every molecule of water it releases is a molecule it can no longer store. Over the weeks, we track the overall water content by weighing the jar. Despite the closed system, the jar is slowly losing weight. Microscopic amounts of water vapor are escaping through the filtered lid. The nightly condensation becomes a little less pronounced. The beetle has to search a little harder for its morning drink. Around day 60, the signs of decline become more undeniable. The cumulative effect of the slow water loss and constant heat stress is taking its toll. The sand surface is now covered in a network of fine cracks, like a creeping web across the miniature desert floor. The plant is visibly smaller now. The vibrant green has faded to a pale, grayish green. The beetle's movements are slower, more labored. Its dawn excursions for water now shorter. But then, something unexpected. Under magnification, we identify it as a fungus, a new life from dormant spores. A decomposer thriving on tiny bits of organic matter, the beetle avoids the patch. The plant's deep roots are unaffected, for now. Ecosystems aren't just big visible players. The fungus complicates our simple decline narrative, introducing complex, unpredictable transformation. The jar is still full of surprises. These are not signs of imminent failure, but rather the visible markers of the intense, ongoing effort to stay alive. The 100th day arrives. We light the jar with a warm, cinematic glow, just as we did on day 1. The camera pans slowly across the scene, revealing a world both familiar and profoundly changed. But it is a harsher, leaner, more weathered world. The glass walls bear the faint, dusty residue of the long-gone sandstorm. The plant is still standing. The beetle has survived. Their victory is endurance, not thriving. Chart: steady decline in the jar's total weight. Graph: daily temperature swings, relentless sawtooth highs and lows. The data shows struggle. The image shows outcome. Survival. Life, in its most tenacious form, found a way. Life is resilient. Our jar shows how fragile the balance is. Subscribe to Tiny Forest Lab, where nature meets imagination. Can a desert survive in a jar for 100 days? Heat rises, water hides, life adapts. Evaporation, condensation, survival. Endurance, not comfort. What happens when we trap the desert inside glass? Subscribe to Tiny Forest Lab, where nature meets imagination.